The story opens on a calm, beautiful island. A wealthy family arrives on their private yacht for a vacation. Blue ocean stretches in every direction. Tall cliffs rise nearby, and everything feels peaceful. The family's young daughter wanders off alone along the shoreline while eating. Suddenly, rustling comes from the nearby bushes, and a small, harmless-looking creature steps out. Without fear, the girl offers it a piece of bread. Delighted, she turns to call her parents, but when she turns back, her blood runs cold. Dozens of similar creatures pour out of the bushes, surrounding her completely. A moment later, her terrified scream echoes through the jungle. The scene shifts to a corporate office. John Hammond, the old man who once tried to build a dinosaur park, is now seriously ill. His greedy nephew has taken control of the company and tells the board that after the earlier disaster, the company is deep in losses. His plan: capture the dangerous creatures from the island, bring them to the city, put them on display, and make billions. Meanwhile, Hammond wants to correct his old mistake. He secretly summons Dr. Ian Malcolm, the scientist who barely survived the first disaster years ago. Hammond reveals a shocking truth. The place where the first incident happened was only ever a display site. The real creatures were bred on a second, hidden island. Years earlier, a violent storm forced the staff to evacuate that island, and ever since, the creatures have lived there freely without any human interference, building their own world. Hammond begs Malcolm to quietly assemble a small scientific team, travel there, and document the creatures on camera so the truth reaches the world before greedy men can exploit them. Malcolm flatly refuses, calling it a death wish. But then Hammond drops the real bombshell. Malcolm's close friend, the researcher Sarah, is already on that island, alone. With her life in danger, Malcolm has no choice but to go. Malcolm gathers a small team and heads to the unknown island. The place feels eerily calm. Dense jungle, giant trees, strange distant sounds. Following Sarah's GPS signal, the team finds her wrecked vehicle deep in the forest, and soon Sarah herself, safe but reckless, she has been studying the creatures up close and photographing them from dangerously short range. Malcolm insists they leave immediately, but Sarah refuses, arguing that these animals live in a natural world, not a zoo, and won't attack unless provoked. Then the ground begins to shake. A herd of massive, long-necked herbivores appears, and Sarah moves in close to photograph them. Everything is fine until her camera runs out of film and lets out a loud, mechanical click. The sound startles the herd, and one of the giant creatures lashes out with its spiked tail, forcing Sarah to dive into a hollow tree trunk for safety. The creature pounds the trunk before finally moving on. Back at camp, Malcolm opens the rear door of his vehicle and gets the shock of his life. His 14-year-old daughter, Kelly, has secretly stowed away, having followed him to protect him. Before he can process this, a deep rumble fills the sky. Not thunder, but a fleet of helicopters. Ludlow's armed hunting crew has landed on the island with cages, weapons, and heavy vehicles. Their goal isn't research, it's capturing every creature they can, big or small, to sell in the city. The peaceful island is about to become a battlefield of fire and steel. The hunters spread out fast, chasing terrified animals through the jungle in speeding vehicles, throwing nets and ropes, dragging creatures into iron cages. Dust, engine noise, and the cries of frightened animals fill the air. From a nearby ridge, Malcolm's team watches, realizing that if the hunters aren't stopped, they'll destroy the entire island. Under cover of night, one of Malcolm's team members sneaks into the hunters' camp and quietly unlocks every cage. The freed creatures tear the camp apart, vehicles burn, tents collapse, and hunters scatter for their lives. But amid the chaos, the hunters' most experienced tracker, Roland, has a far more dangerous plan of his own. He wants to hunt the island's deadliest predator, the full-grown T-Rex. To lure it, he finds a baby T-Rex, deliberately breaks its leg, and ties it to a tree in the open, waiting in the bushes with his rifle for the parent to come running. The injured baby's cries echo through the rain-soaked jungle. Sarah and her colleague Nick, moved by pity, ignore the obvious danger, sneak up to the trap, free the baby, and carry it back to their research vehicle to treat its wound. Inside, Sarah begins bandaging its leg, completely unaware they've just made the worst mistake of their lives. The ground starts to tremble, water in a glass ripples. Heavy footsteps draw closer, and Malcolm realizes exactly who is coming. Before anyone can react, two massive, enraged T-Rexes appear at either side of the vehicle, their eyes burning with fury. They've come for their baby. The vehicle falls into dead silence. Sarah and Nick quickly finish bandaging the baby's leg and gently push it out through the window. Reunited with their baby, the two giants calm for a moment and disappear into the darkness. Relief is short-lived. Moments later, the T-Rexes return and slam into the heavy research vehicle with full force, flipping it around like a toy and dragging it toward the edge of a steep cliff. Half the vehicle ends up dangling in midair, with jagged rocks and open sea hundreds of feet below. Malcolm, Sarah, and Nick scramble to hold on as glass and equipment crash down around them. Their colleague Eddie arrives in a smaller jeep to help, tying a thick rope to the hanging vehicle and trying to pull it to safety. But the two T-Rexes return, snap the tow cable, and drag Eddie himself from his jeep, killing him instantly. The wrecked vehicle then plunges off the cliff into the ocean below. Malcolm, Sarah, and Nick barely climb to safety using the rope, but they've lost virtually all their equipment, weapons, and communication gear. Meanwhile, the hunters' base camp has also been wiped out that same night. With neither side having any resources left, Malcolm's scientists and Ludlow's hunters are forced to team up the next morning. Roland tells them about an old communication station in the middle of the island. If they can reach it on foot, they might radio for rescue, but the route runs straight through territory, crawling with dangerous predators. With no other option, the survivors set out on the perilous trek. That night, they make camp, unaware that danger is closer than they think. Traces of the baby T-Rex's blood are still on Sarah's jacket from the earlier treatment, and the two adult T-Rexes track the scent straight to the camp. A massive head bursts through a tent, and chaos erupts. People scatter and scream. Hunters abandon their weapons and flee. In the panic, several people are trampled, and a group of hunters get separated, stumbling into a field of unusually tall grass that reaches shoulder height. They don't realize they've wandered straight into raptor territory. Small heads pop up and vanish among the grass, and then the raptors strike, leaping from the cover in coordinated ambush. None of the hunters who entered that field make it out alive. Malcolm, Kelly, and Sarah manage to avoid the grass field and reach the crumbling ruins of the old communication station, but three raptors track them inside. A desperate room-to-room fight for survival follows. The raptors can open doors and leap across walls with ease. One lunges straight at Kelly, but she fights back, swinging from a metal bar and kicking the raptor through a broken window to its death below. Sarah, meanwhile, traps a second raptor under a heavy metal drainage pipe. She then makes it to the main control room, powers up the old generator, and sends out an emergency radio distress call. Hours later, a rescue helicopter arrives, lifting Malcolm, Kelly, and Sarah safely off the island. But the story isn't over. From the air, they spot something horrifying. Ludlow and his men have sedated the adult T-Rex and its baby and loaded them onto a massive cargo ship bound for San Diego. Ludlow still plans to open his dinosaur park in the middle of a populated city, forgetting one crucial detail. Sedatives wear off. At the San Diego harbor, late at night, the ship drifts in off course and crashes straight into the dock wall. Malcolm and Sarah, already on scene, rush aboard and find the crew dead, the deck covered in blood. The sedative has worn off completely. Starving, wounded, and enraged, the T-Rex breaks free from the cargo hold and leaps off the ship straight into the streets of San Diego. Panic grips the city as the T-Rex rampages through downtown, crushing cars and chasing fleeing civilians. Malcolm and Sarah realize the only way to control it is through its baby. They race to Ludlow's makeshift lab, grab the caged baby T-Rex, and speed back toward the harbor. Malcolm lets the baby cry out from the car window. The sound instantly stops the rampaging adult in its tracks, and it turns to chase the car back toward the ship. Malcolm skillfully leads it back onto the vessel, and he and Sarah release the baby into the cargo hold before escaping. Ludlow, desperate to save his collapsing empire, goes down into the hold alone to recapture the baby, not realizing the adult T-Rex is right behind him. Rather than kill Ludlow himself, the T-Rex breaks his leg and lets its baby finish him off as a hunting lesson, a fitting end for his greed. Outside, Malcolm and Sarah seal the hold's heavy doors, and Sarah sedates the adult with a tranquilizer gun. Both T-Rexes are safely contained. The next morning, naval and coast guard ships escort the vessel back to the island. On the news, an ailing John Hammond appeals to the world to leave the secret island untouched, saying nature doesn't need cages or theme parks. Left alone, these creatures will thrive on their own. In the final scenes, the T-Rex family roams safely through the jungle with their baby. Herbivores drink peacefully by the rivers, and giant flying creatures soar overhead. Humanity has finally understood its limits, and the island's creatures have returned to the world that was always meant to be theirs.